Hey, what's up guys? We're back again with the best deck in Clash Royale for after the balance changes. Even before the buffs, this splashyard graveyard deck is played absolutely everywhere. The ranked 21, 30, 36, and 38 players in the world are only using this deck, along with a lot of other top ladder players that have only been using this strategy for years. The solid defense of Ice Wizard to slow down your opponent's pushes, Tornado to pull things back and get a King Tower activation, and Tombstone to constantly defend and distract your opponent's spam, this deck has always been one of the best decks in Clash Royale, especially if you reach double or triple elixir. Since graveyard skeletons get directly on tower and poison removes all the bait cards that opponents try to counter graveyard with, this deck is unstoppable. And the incoming balance changes just gave a massive buff to this graveyard deck. Ice Wizard's spawn radius is going to get increased by 20%, allowing you an easier defense. And goblins are getting nerfed, which are one of the best counters to graveyard. Because Night Witch is getting a substantial buff, everyone is going to be bouncing back to play Golem, which is the easiest matchup for this graveyard deck. Night Witch bats melt to your splash damage of Poison, Ice Wizard, and Baby Dragon every time. After all of these buffs, this splashyard deck is destined to become overpowered. It's time to do the skeleton dance on a ton of towers and assert dominance. If you don't have Skeleton King, use Night. Lots of love to everyone that's using credit code SirTag to support the channel. All right, so we got a game against someone that's painting a picture. So we'll see what deck he's going to be bringing out today. Definitely don't want to be making any mess ups, so I'm going to go for a Barbarian and just play as safe as I can. Oh my gosh, wait, what? Seriously? Royal Giant right out of the jump? This guy's a wild child. So I think I'm okay tornadoing back the Royal Giant so it doesn't get as much damage. If we can splash through and hit the Firecracker, that would be astoundingly awesome, but it didn't work out. Okay. Well, I guess the Firecracker's gone, so we can click the Skeleton King ability when we get closer to the tower. He might activate King Tower, though, if he's got Fisherman. That's always not fun to play into. Okay, so he's going to have Barbarians with Royal Giant. I really don't see Barbarians played very often. Usually it's Elite Barbarians. Oh my gosh, wait, what? Guys, I'm kind of confused. I think I'm going to go for an Ice Wizard further away from the Barbarians. The Barbarians aren't able to immediately crush it down quick. Then I can go for my own Barbarrel to tank for our Ice Wizard and make sure that the Barbarians aren't going to hurt us today. Because our friend is our protection and bodyguard Barbarian. I don't know. I don't know what we want to call him. But Bob decided to protect us today. So can the Bob give us any damage? Nah, not much. So looking at the game real quick, I want to go for Skeleton King because there's 4 or 5 bats on the field still. I can collect those souls and maybe fling some bats back in the form of skeletons at our opponent. So if we go in for a graveyard right now, could be a vibe, could be pretty solid stuff. We can also maybe poison here. I'm thinking, what do we want to do? Tornado is off the table. We're not allowed to go in for Tornado in this matchup anymore because we need to save it for either the Royal Giant or the Hog Rider. You know what? I think we Tombstone on the Royal Giant as the most acceptable maneuver, and then we go in for a Tornado on top of the Hog Rider. If that's our strategy, can't really fault us. I think that's our best play possible. So if we decide to Tornado right now, whatever he drops, it would be a foolish endeavor because we don't have a building on top of the Hog Rider. So I kind of have to roll with what we got. Maybe it will work out. We're currently even damage on both sides and then also even damage with him. So it's something I can work with. It's just not something that I want to work with, you know? We're going to Skeleton King here, and then we're going to drop a Barbarian, collect all the souls of those goblins, and now they're on my team. We can go for a Baby Dragon in the back left. We can also drop maybe a Baby Dragon on the right and finish off. Oof. Can't do that anymore. All right, so we're going to Tombstone, and I guess I'm going to Ice Wizard because we expect him to log. So we want to be able to slow everything down. I think we can Barbarian Barrel on top of the Firecracker and the Barbarians, and that's going to be our best bet. And then maybe we can pull back the Barbarians and activate King Tower with the Hog Rider still. So typically in that type of situation, what would happen if we didn't separate the Barbarians away from the Hog Rider is the Barbarians would block our King Tower activation with the Tornado. Okay, so we know the Barbarians are out of cycle, so I think I have to go in for a Skeleton King, and then I can maybe get an Ice Wizard down to slow everything down, and then I can go for a Tornado, and then maybe this will work out. I think in this type of situation, I need to take the tower now or never, and it might work out. Guys, we found an opportunity. Wait, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. He's saying good game. I hope I got this. I don't know. I'm going to go for Tombstone. Poison tick down just in the last second. Give me the W. Oh my goodness. That game was a heart racer. Playing against someone that was about to take my tower on both sides in the final second, and we barely clutched the W despite our opponent having 2 win conditions. That's the power of having Tornado, Tombstone, and Ice Wizard to slow all of your opponent's stuff down. Despite him having Royal Giant and Hog Rider, he still couldn't find enough damage. All right, we got a game against Leah from Combat Royale, also with an exclamation mark, so maybe they're really excited to play against me. First things first, I'm going to go for a Baby Dragon in the back, and whenever I see Zappies, I'm expecting to be either a Graveyard deck or a Royal Giant deck. I mean, it could be something else. Maybe it's going to be like Giant Skeleton Royal Hogs. Oh, man. Wow, right as I say that, it ends up being exactly that. I'm going to Tornado and activate King Tower and pull all of the piggies. Not a single one is left alone on the tower. Only can go to the King Tower. if you guys maximize your efficiency with those type of placements, you're going to be winning so many more games. So definitely try to learn the tornado placements if you've been slacking and you're like, it's not that fun to memorize placements in Clash Royale. It's a lot of fun winning for you guys. So, try it out, and I'm sure that your increased win rate will make it a lot more fun and worth the time to invest to learn that. The guy is going to be running... All right. I don't know. This is a Goblin Hut still. Even after the presumed nerf is going to be hitting soon, person is still running it. So I'm going to poison when more Spear Goblins come out so we can hit everything at once. Oh, Royale Recruits. We finished off the Spear Goblins at least, so there is that silver lining. But ideally playing against Royale Recruits right now, we want to keep our Skeleton King on our side of the map so we're able to go and apply aggression with it afterward. But I'm not able to anymore because I just cycled it. All right, Royale Hogs might be coming down. I do end up having a Tombstone and Tornado, so I'm not super scared. Fireball comes down on top of the Ice Wizard, so that means that I can't get anything from that. However, our opponent's in a pretty bad spot, and we expect him to not end up having a Mother Witch in the deck. Probably a Fly Machine right now and then arrows. Oh, wait, what? Phoenix? Okay. All right, that wasn't a card that I thought at all would be in your deck. Barb Barrel comes down as expected, right? We were expecting either arrows or Barb Barrel, but I really thought Fly Machine would be his bird of choice. But he's running high in the sky with a Phoenix, which is not necessarily as good. If you're running Royale Recruits, which is my main deck in Clash Royale, a lot of times you're not able to overcome bad matchups if you have a Phoenix. If you end up having a Fly Machine, it will sneak onto the tower, lock up like 1,500 damage, and immediately put you in a lead or in a position to come back in the game. So I'm really happy that we're playing against Phoenix because obviously with the Ice Wizard and the Baby Dragon, we're able to damage it down from a distance, and it's not near as scary. Because a lot of times against the Fly Machine, I'm going to be forced to go in for like a poison on that, and I don't like that. So we're going to go for an Ice Wizard on the other side. He'll probably Fireball it, which is totally fine. Then we're going to go in for a Tombstone up high so they can't Fireball on top of the Ice Wizard and the Tombstone. And then we can maybe even go in for like a Tornado and then another Ice Wizard. I wonder if this is worth it, because we're definitely taking the tower on the left-hand side. If I click the Skeleton King ability, this should be all she wrote, right? We're fine. We can Barb Barrel on top of the Remnants of the Zappy, and also the Phoenix is just going to get distracted. And let me tell you something. That Phoenix, if that was a Fly Machine, it would have locked onto my tower and dealt the 1,500 damage that I was talking about. Because you had the bird that just kind of has the Tyrannosaurus Rex arms and not the long range, well, it really didn't give us any suffering. And that was an incredibly easy win. If you guys hate playing against baity decks like Goblin Hut and Royale Recruits Royale Hogs, this deck crushes them. And we're speedily climbing up the ranks at 8,200 in the world. Jump into the game against someone from 2006. Wow, that is a huge throwback, bro. I don't even remember that time. I'm going to go in for a Skeleton King in the back, and we'll see what he's up to. Definitely just want to just make sure that he's going to apply some aggression so we can go and activate King Tower with the Tornado. I don't have the right card cycle here, so I'm going to go in for a Barbarian Barrel. I think that's able to fully counter the Goblins from the drill. Oh, come on! How did the Goblin cheese me like that? I thought we were set up, man. I thought we were chilling. Wait, the Baby Dragon's going to lock on the tower, and the Barb Barrel actually gave us some benefit. Where it failed, it picked up the slack. And it was able to tank for the Baby Dragon, so the Inferno Tower locked onto the wrong thing for a while. That was actually really cool. That was 900 damage from a Baby Dragon. And after the Baby Dragon buff, where it starts to ignore all of the opponent's units, and it goes directly towards the tower because the sight range will be decreased, that would be even better. So Baby Dragon right now is showing its strength as why it's better than Phoenix in this deck as an alternative win condition, but just wait for it to become even stronger. So we're going to go Barb Barrel. I'm not going to Graveyard because I don't know the rest of the cards in my opponent's deck. And the Barb Barrel will give us one hit on the tower, so that's well worth it for 2 elixir. We're going to Skeleton King in the side that he's more likely to spam in because obviously he's done some damage there. And then I think we can comfortably go in for a Graveyard because the Skeleton King on the right-hand side is going to force out elixir. We can Graveyard with the Baby Dragon on the left or switch it up and swerve him. Yo, you dropped a -1 trade with that Inferno Tower, and now you still have to deal with the Skeleton King. Yeah, your tower on the right-hand side is full HP, but it's not going to be full HP for long, bro. We're singing a sad song of skeletons as they dance and prance. Also, we can go in for a poison here on top of the Magic Archer. I think clipping the Valkyrie is ideal, so we minimize the amount of damage he gets. And then we can pull the Valkyrie using the Ice Wizard, or not. Okay, it didn't matter. Fortunately, the slow of the Ice Wizard was enough to keep up and pick up my poor plays. I love the fact that there's built-in noob-friendly tactics in this deck because you have Tornado to pull units off of your tower, or maybe Ice Wizard to slow down things. It gives you a much better defense in situations that you don't even deserve it. Oh, let's go! Tombstone, even if it dies, it's going to spawn skeletons to distract the rest of his goblins. Now we can go in for a Graveyard, expecting him to go for a Valkyrie, and that was actually quite a good Valkyrie to body block us from crossing the river. But the Magic Archer wasn't locking onto the skeletons. This guy got the worst RNG imaginable. How did his Magic Archer just run away from the Graveyard? That's pretty funny. I haven't seen that happen in a long time. So we know that the guy's got rockets, so I want to not drop units behind my tower. Instead, I'm just going to go for tombstone in front and then always be able to counter the goblin drill with that. If you guys haven't done that, tombstone is super goated. You're able to drop it on defense, and then even if your opponent goes in for like a fireball or a rocket, which most people will end up having because they want to have the bounce back effect of utilizing the spell to make sure that the units will get knocked back so the goblins will actually lock onto the tower. So for instance, if they're playing against like a Valkyrie, they never want to go in for a poison because the poison doesn't do anything against the Valkyrie. They rather go for a fireball, a snowball, or a rocket when they're running goblin drill because they want to knock the Valkyrie away so then they have room for their goblins to lock onto the tower. And in that situation, the tombstone won't die if they're using any of those spells, and then you just get value. So I love running tombstone against goblin drill. Is basically the long and the short of it. We're gonna go for a poison on defense just to hit those skeletons. Maybe the magic archer walks up into it. It doesn't necessarily matter that much. We can go in for a tombstone in the back and then force out him to go for the goblin drill when he doesn't necessarily want to in the back as well. Because the goblins will spawn in the back of the drill. So if you guys didn't know, you can activate King Tower with that goblin, and then we can go in for a barbarian barrel to finish off the rest of them. Oh, I mistimed it. Dude, my barbarians and I just don't get along today, all right? That's what's been happening. We go for an ice wizard in case he wants to go for a tornado. I want to make sure that we misalign his stuff. Still on my tower. Dude, my tower is 1, 2, 3, 4 for a split second. He had to ruin it. Oh my goodness. All right, we're going to go for a poison. I think that's going to be enough for us to win the game because the baby dragon should belch onto the tower with his fiery breath, causing our opponent's immediate death. The guy even said well played at the end. It was a super fun match. The cool thing with this deck is there's so many defensive tricks that once you figure it out, each matchup will become easier. For instance, dropping that tombstone against the goblin drill saved my butt. Even when our opponent dropped 10 elixir with the goblin drill and rocket, it still wasn't enough to squash the skeletons. And now we've pushed up to 6,888 in the world. You gotta appreciate all those 8s. All right, we got a game here against Ahmed. First things first, he's gonna rush through with the hog. So we love seeing that card because it's a juicy King Tower activation every time for a +1 elixir trade and also giving us a beneficial defense for the rest of the game, right? We're gonna have to spend a little bit less elixir each time that he spams us. So we're gonna be going in for a Skeleton King and then maybe a Graveyard here because we were able to swoop up all the goblins and he has one less bait card to defend against the Graveyard. So generally in this type of matchup, our opponent will have Musketeer and Earthquake and a ton of cards that are a little bit obnoxious. I'm not going to click the Skeleton King ability because we're going directly into a Valkyrie, and the Skeleton King wasn't too close to the tower, so it wasn't going to give me anything. Alright, so we can go in for a Baby Dragon here, and we're going to wait and see what he wants to do. If he goes in for a Hog Rider Earthquake, he's going to miss the Tombstone if he decides to try to hit the tower. So that's why I decided to do that placement and prioritize that. Then we're going to Ice Wizard to slow down the Hog Rider so it doesn't get a hit. Oh my gosh, he's got Lightning! That did 420 damage to my tower. Eviscerated an Ice Wizard and also crumbled the rest of our dragon too. Not what we were looking for at all, but we can make this work. So if we're playing against Lightning, obviously the Ice Wizard is not going to be that good on defense compared to like if our opponent had Earthquake, because the ice wouldn't melt, the ice wouldn't even get shooken up, man. He would just end up wasting elixir every time, tickling us. But the Lightning, it shatters everything quick. So we're not going to be able to build up any ice sculptures on defense. Instead, we're going to be trying to use our Tombstone and maybe even a Tornado primarily. We're going to poison here because we knew you had to go for goblins, especially if you went for a Valkyrie up top to go and finish off our Skeleton King. Ideally, what happens here is we're able to finish off his Executioner with the Barbell and pull back the Valkyrie so then we can comfortably counter the rest of his Hog Rider with just a Tornado with the Valkyrie not body blocking the Hog Rider. Because what happens is the Valkyrie's body blocking the Hog Rider and then the Hog Rider can't get pulled to the King Tower. I have a really miserable interaction. So try to stop your opponent's units that are in front of the Hog Rider at the river so then you can always use your Tornado for the juicy trade against the Hog Rider without any real ramifications, right? Even if your opponent's going to Lightning the tower, it doesn't stop the Tornado. You know, it pairs with the Tornado in a fairy tale right now, you know, like Lightning, Tornado, it's the perfect storm, but it doesn't really work like that. In fact, it would be helping me. So we're going to poison. We're expecting him to try to go in for goblins. He doesn't do it. He's just going to let the Executioner clean up quite nicely. Actually, you know what? The Executioner is not executing orders effectively. He's taking a bunch more damage than I would expect him to. So we're going to go for a Barbell. Probably going to go for a Tornado. I don't know if he's going to for sure, but I'm kind of expecting him to. Barbell might be able to finish off the Executioner. And then, you know what? I don't want to do this Tornado. I really don't want to. I really don't. Because if I do, then I'm not going to have as much elixir on offense here. And I'd rather go in for a Graveyard with a poison and still take one Hog Rider hit, but have the potential for destructive offense potential. So we're going to go in for an Ice Wizard Tornado just to group up his units. It might be enough to finish off the Executioner. If it is, then it's well worth it. I think it does. Yo, no! I got trolled! Seriously? You really had to be the 1 HP hero Executioner, forcing out a Barbell for me? How dare you? So I'm going to Graveyard again. I'm going to go in for another poison. We should be back to Tornado, so it's not the worst thing in the world. think we might go in for a Skeleton King. Oh, come on, Executioner, to decide. Make up your mind. Are you going to go on offense or not? So we're going to go in for the Tombstone here. Generally going to be pretty okay, especially since we have the Tornado to go and pull his Executioner so it's not lined up with my tower. Wait, is the Executioner glitched? It literally looks like it's in the middle of the map. It looks like it's in the river. I think I glitched Clash Royale. Dude, what was that Executioner doing? I genuinely just glitched the game. Oh no, they gotta fix that. Executioner evolved to have a new ability unlocked. It can swim. Oh, that was actually absurd. Alright, so all we have to do is use a Tombstone on defense. He might Lightning on this. It's totally fine if that's the case. We do have Tornado as well. We want to finish off the Executioner, so that's our biggest priority right now. And then we can Tornado on the Hog Rider, as I said before. We just don't want to eat that damage. We're fully expecting him to go in for a Tornado here, and that's what he does. We're going to go for an Ice Wizard. It might have enough damage to finish it off, and it does. Solid stuff. I still can't get my head wrapped around the fact that the Executioner learned how to swim. It's evolving. That's what Clash Royale meant when they said that the new update is going to have evolving cards. The Executioner is a big part of it. We're going to go in for a Barbarian Barrel, go and pull back the Valkyrie, go and drop a Tombstone in a spot that he's not able to Lightning, and then we can go in for Tornado to shut down the Hog Rider, whisk it away, and pull it to the other side with no help of going over. Unfortunately, the Hog Rider can't swim against the current. The Tornado was too strong, and it pulled it to its inevitable defeat, as we swooped in with the Baby Dragon to light our opponent's chances of winning on fire. And our overpowered skeleton spam has secured our spot at 6,000 in the world. So sprinting into the game against Eric, he is already rushing through with the wall breakers, and we saw Electro Spirit in his banners. So I think that my opponent, if he likes Electro Spirit, is going to be running a fast cycle deck. Wait, he's going to have wall breakers with Archer Queen, so definitely an annoying matchup for us because Archer Queen, it goes invisible, and then it just deletes our units for 1 elixir. It's kind of ridiculous, the abilities that champions have. Skeleton King, Archer Queen, those are some of the most destructive things, and they only cost 1 and 2 elixir respectively for their abilities. So the Baby Dragon, oh wait, the Ice Wizard somehow locked on the tower. That's quite cool. We can activate King Tower utilizing a Tornado. We do have to leak a little bit of elixir, but I think it's going to be well worth it to go and pull the Royal Ghost. Finishing off the bats was also a priority, so I wanted to make sure I was going to be able to hit those too. What do? Skeleton King in the back. We see Archer Queen. You know what? It's got to be Mega Knight, because we see Royal Ghost. Archer Queen never ends up having Royal Ghost in fast cycle minor wall breaker decks, unless it's paired with Mega Knight. So we got our detective pants on, and hopefully we can make the right plays. He's looking super suspicious, and I think he's going to try to drop a Mega Knight soon. Maybe he drops it at the river. We'll have to find out. No, he's just going to go Archer Queen. One of the most disappointing things about this deck is the fact that you can't finish off an Archer Queen with a Poison and a Barbarrel. If you had Poison plus Log, that would be a completely different story. The Barbarrel is nice in this deck because it gives you another mini tank for defenses in every other matchup, but Archer Queen specifically, that is the one thing I fear. So if I go in for a Tombstone, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the best bet. Probably going to be better for us to go for Tornado since we are able to finish off the Archer Queen with that, guaranteed. I don't know if the Ice Wizard would have, though, because it looked like it was going to go undercover, and I didn't want to deal with that agent right now. All right, we're going to go for a Barbarrel potentially after the Mega Knight jumps. I just don't want it to go jump on my tower, ideally. As long as it's distracted, then we're chilling. We won't be able to distract ourselves from the damage that the Mega Knight gets, though, if that ever locks once. The guy's going to have bats in the deck with Archer Queen. Obviously, the Archer Queen is probably the scariest card for us to bridge battle against because it is able to delete all of our stuff. Interesting that he's overcommitting right now. Like, I genuinely am surprised that he's spending that amount of elixir. So we can go for an Ice Wizard here. I'm trying to find my opportunity instead of forcing it. With this deck, you can't go in for graveyards and single elixir. If your opponent's got bats, you're going to have to poison on that. That would be a -2 trade. And while they're simultaneously applying pressure on the other side, you would just die. So I never want to lose games against Mega Knight. I always want to play safe and get double or triple elixir because that's where our deck becomes so much better. Also, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. If opponents end up going in for any unit that tries to cross the river and break through your defenses, their decks are going to be really bad in single elixir if they ever overcommit, but generally their deck is going to be way better in single elixir than you. Your deck is going to be better in double or triple because your units get directly on the tower. So when you find the advantage to be able to go in for the graveyard when you can afford a poison preemptively on their bats and they have no other answer like that, that's where you get all your damage. It's like one push. You don't want to like tickle away at their tower and get 1,000 paper cuts. No, instead it's just a ton of spam all the time at one push. That's how we play this matchup. That's how you play this deck in general. You get your opportunity, you seize the moment, and then you get your opponent out of the game. I think he might just feel really uncomfortable at this point. We're able to go in for a poison on top of his bats or on top of his Archer Queen. Depending on what he wants to do, it should be really good for us. I'm going to Tornado his Archer Queen a little bit further back, so then it's going to get surrounded by skeletons, and then we can Barbarrel to finish it off. Now I can go in for just eating the wall breakers because it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. We can barbell on top of the Archer Queen and make sure that obviously his Royal Ghost is going to go and lock onto the Skeleton King instead of anything important. And now I'm going to go in for one more Graveyard, and this should seal his fate. So I'm going to go in for the poison immediately, expecting him to Mega Knight on top of the Skeleton King. Probably not that big of a deal because the skeletons will do too much damage. As long as we preemptively poison on the bats, as soon as they're dropped, they drop. And then he can't stop anything because he needs enough splash damage or fast attacking units to finish off the skeletons. The moral of the story with this deck is strive to survive in single elixir until you can dominate in double and triple. Once you have enough elixir to unleash a graveyard poison push while defending at the same time, your opponent is going to be in serious trouble. Like, subscribe for more daily videos, and have an incredible rest of your day.